You're in a bit of a different chair this year.
Yeah.
What was your first draft as GM like?
It was good. I think it helped me that it was remote because we could be a little more open with our
Yeah.
conversations. I could shout questions down to the other end of the table, and have I think Ross said you have to have all your notes kind of out in front of you. So I guess I was able to be maybe a little more organized than I would have been if we're all kind of crammed around a table on the floor of an arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I guess we get into the draft picks, I want to talk about the players, the NHL players you acquired. We'll start with Justin Sort. What do you see there, and where does he protect out for you guys?
Yeah. He's a guy we've liked for a few years. We've tried to get him a couple times from Florida. We see a guy that's competitive, smart, can play wing and center, plays both special teams at the AHL level. I think in Florida it was a situation where just he was getting boxed out a little bit, and they had a bunch of people calling on him, and so it got to be a competitive situation. So, kind of like I said at the trade deadline, we had to decide: do we want the guy and are willing to pay up for it, or do we want to take a back seat? And for us, it felt like these are the kind of deals that we've had success with in the past with a guy like Rasmus Sandin, where you use a first to get him. Now, obviously, he was more established in the NHL, but we view it as a similar type deal where we're getting a young guy that might be in our organization for a lot of years, and we think it'd be really really key contributor to our team going forward, kind of that next wave of younger players. So, I think as far as his role with us, it's going to be he gives Carbs options. He can try him at the wing. He can try him at center, but I think it'll be he's gonna have a good chance here to prove that he's a good NHL player.
You mentioned that there was some competition to get his services. I mean, did a bunch of teams start to jump in there? Did a good Calder Cup run, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's been really good in the AHL for the last 3 years. There's definitely other teams. I think it was down to us and one other team at the end, and they had a higher second than we did, which is why we had to go to the sixth. And so it's that's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah, like I said, he can play wing or center just as effectively. So I'll leave it to Carbs and how things shake out with the team. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah, a guy who we can have a little control over, the contract here because he's an RFA. We wanted to address our defensive depth this offseason, and if you go into the free agent market, you don't have control over the costs. So we thought this was a good chance to try to do that. We like where he's trending as a player. Again, another guy that's the right age, and I think he's gonna have a real good opportunity here to continue to build on what he was doing in Minnesota.
So both guys you acquired were RFAs, and the teams that you traded with might have had some cap situations. Was that something that you guys kind of canvassed and took into consideration when you went into the market?
Yeah, definitely. And the last month, I'm talking to every GM and asking what they're doing, and before that, I'm talking with our hockey hop staff, and we're identifying potential guys that aren't free agents that might be a fit for the team. So those names come up, and then you get calls back on them or you don't.
When you look at Chisholm and his role, I mean, does it help to bring in another defenseman, especially after what you guys saw when Teravalle went down?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's an area that you can always improve on. It's a hard area. Having 7 really good D means you have a really good defenseman that's not happy, but I think it just gives us a lot of options. During this off season here, so we were glad we were able to get him, and he's really excited to come here. He sees where our organization is going, and he's ready to be part of something special.
Does that change the picture a little bit for Alexia in a way? I mean, he's more basically left shot, kind of looking for more opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Alex, he's a young guy that didn't get to play a bunch of games this year. I think it's important for him to get an opportunity at the NHL level, if that's with us or if that's with somebody else. So, we're going to be as helpful as we can to him to get him the best opportunity to play in the NHL next year.
Are you intending to qualify?
I'll let that kind of come out at the right time.
On Teravalle, do you have any updates on his progress for his next year?
Yeah, he's doing great. All very positive progress from the medical group. He's pretty much, I think, at the point now where he can start kind of his normal off-season training. So, Marty's a machine, so you can't keep him down too long.
Where do you stand with your unrestricted free agents? You got 4 of them. Do you expect any of them to come back to you?
We talked to pretty much all of them, and I don't know. It's right now, I think a lot of players are looking for significant raises because they see the cap going up. They have cap guidance for the next 3 years, so we'll continue to talk and see if things make sense economically for us, and if they don't, we'll have to go a different direction. And keeping in mind also we've got some young players knocking on the door too that need opportunity.
So you're expecting them to all go to market?
Not necessarily. No, still talking on some.
Depth camp starts in a few days. Who are some of the players, maybe 1 or 2, that you're really gonna have your eyes on because maybe they have a good shot at making the roster this year?
Well, obviously Hudson will be interesting to see. I mean, if we have, like Leonard last year, had a great first college season. Now he's going into the second season, so we'll see where he is and if he has interest in coming out afterwards. So I think that whole kind of dance will start now. So it'll be cool to see where he is. In our development camp, I don't know if you really want to be evaluating players. Like you guys have seen it. It's more a orientation camp than anything. So for me, it'll actually be most interesting to see the guys we just drafted and see where they are. I got to sit in on the interview with Gastrin at the Combine, and he was a really impressive kid, really mature, and so I'm excited to see him on the ice. And obviously, Lakovic and all the other picks, like it'll be cool to see.
You mentioned the cap going up. In general, what do you think how that will impact cap once
I do think there'll be some players that get raises, but I don't know if it's going to be like across the board just because you're making X last year. Now you automatically make X plus 10%, and it'll also be demand. Like I think there's not a lot of options available in the forward market and in the D market if you're looking for higher end players. So then there's a trickle down effect, right? You miss on the first guy, you go for the second guy. You miss on the second guy, you go for the third guy. And if you're starting to get a little desperate, then you're willing to pay the higher price to get that guy. So, there will be some. I think we all have to maybe change our gauge on what a second liner used to make in the old cap. Now is going to be a different number because we're going to be at 95, we're going to be at 103, we're going to be at 115. So we're going to see some higher prices for sure.
How does that happen where you sort of re-gauge for the players where the cap's going up a certain percentage now and a bigger percentage the following year? What's that recalculation like for you guys as managers and for agents and those conversations?
It feels like you call an agent, he tells you this is where we're at, and so okay, that's the number. Are we going to pay it or not? But yeah, it's kind of I guess a natural evolution a little bit. What's the team willing to pay for a certain guy if they view that guy as a second line player, and then that sets the market for the rest of the league.
But when you look at the cap space you guys have available, do you go, you know what, I'd like to spread that over 2-3 guys, or do you go, we need one horse and let's try to go get a bigger player with all that?
Yeah, both. We're looking at both.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's the tricky part, right? Because you chase one thing down, you may miss on other things. Right? You chase a big horse down, you miss on them, and then maybe some of the smaller things you want to do are gone. So, hopefully, just like the draft, hopefully things line up the right way. They don't always, so we'll just try our best come July 1 and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I think with the Chisholm thing, we've helped on our defensive depth. So, we'll see what we can add to the forward group. If we lose a guy like Mangiapane, if we lose Eller, if we lose Beauvillier, there's some holes there that, do have young guys coming in, but, you'd like to have some support around them with some veteran guys too. So,
speaking of some of those young guys, Miro, where is he kind of fitting into the plan right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Miro, has a really good chance here to make our NHL team next year. I think he needs to come in and have a really good camp. I think he needs to show the NHL coaches he's ready to take the next step. When he gets chances to score goals, get good shots on net. Don't bobble pucks and really be on your game. as a young guy coming in, you basically you don't have a lot of room for error, right? So you got to be sharp, and it's not fair. But every guy in this team has gone through that. So he needs to have that mindset where you need to be 100% dialed every shift of every practice, every shift of every exhibition game, and make it so Spencer's like, I can't take Miro off this line. I can't take him out of the lineup. He needs to be here because our team's worse without him in the lineup.
You mentioned looking at the roster situation a month ago that you wanted to kind of bolster that third line and bring a skill forward. Is there like a preference for a winger more so than a center because McMichael may want to play center longer term, or is that not something that's really be considered as you go through the months?
Yeah, I think McMichael gives us options. You know, we can put up a lineup that has him in the middle and try to fill in the wings. But if we miss on wings, you know, maybe we bump Mikey over to the wing. And you know, now that we've added Sorted, if it gives another guy that can play the middle, and so you know, we can move the puzzle pieces around more with Mikey's ability to do that, which is very helpful. And we obviously know what he can do in a top six left wing role. So.
Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, how did what St. Louis did last year with offer sheets, you guys impacted the way general managers have operated? And you can see more of that this summer.
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked about it with other managers, and some say, yeah, like we need to be like, if you have guys that you don't want to get exposed, get them done early. And others think, you know, I don't see it happening. And some have told me, I hope my guy gets offer sheeted, so we don't have we don't have to wait till September to get something. I'll just match it and we'll be done, you know. So that's kind of across the board. Personally, I'm a little more conservative. If there's a guy that we think is coming up on potentially being exposed in that way, you know, I think we need to be proactive in talking to him this summer and then into next season and see if we can get something done.
Andrew Crystal is kind of an interesting spot, right? He dominated the WHL. I think he's now eligible for the AHL.
Yep.
He was really close to making your team last year.
Yep.
Like what do you see for him over these next six months, I guess?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. You know, he's going to come in, and if he has a camp like last camp, it's going to be hard on the coaching staff to not keep him on their NHL team. And if he's not up here, he's down in Hershey and you know, getting adjusted to pro hockey. And, you know, I think we're going to see Andrew playing NHL games sooner rather than later.
Is he a guy, because of his high skill set, that might, like, his game just lends itself to going straight from what he just did in the WHL right to the NHL without kind of going through the ringer where, you know, a little more physical, a little slower, maybe not as sharp down in the AHL?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's a hard adjustment for any young player. It takes a really special player to kind of step in seamlessly.
Yeah.
But you know, he's a really intelligent player, and like you said, really skilled, which is, you know, a huge benefit for a guy coming into an NHL situation. So, you know, more it's like understanding time and space and pace of the game and how quickly you need to execute your plays, and sometimes that takes some time.
Has he bulked up at all?
I haven't seen him since last fall, so I don't know. I know the reports from Hershey when he was down in for kind of the end of the season, the playoff push was really positive. Yeah.
Do you have a time frame for naming a new coach in Hershey?
No, not yet. We'll obviously take our time with it. We haven't done a lot right now just because of the timing of when Todd got the job with Pittsburgh, kind of lined up with us getting ready for the draft here. We got a couple of good internal candidates there too with Patrick and Nick. So we'll go through the process. Obviously, in the coaching world, as soon as a position becomes available, you get inundated with resumes. So there's no shortage of candidates right now. So we'll have some time here in this next week in development camp to sit around with Spencer and the Hershey guys and Fitzy, and we'll figure out a plan on the coaches.
And you didn't lose anybody from your NHL staff. Is that safe to say that you'll have the same staff next season?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've sat in that chair when you're not at the NHL level, but at the AHL level when you're trying to hire a coach, and it's really hard. Like, every candidate that comes in is really good and can do the job. And so it just comes down to what you feel your team needs, what kind of message you think the coach is going to bring, and what kind of style of play they have. So, I don't know. They're the best 32 jobs in the world, the best 32 coaches in the world, and it's really hard to get those jobs. And so I guess I'm not totally surprised. It's always competitive.
Going back to your RFAs, looking at Hendrick's ratio maybe a more realistic path for him as he continues to try to cement himself as a local NHL?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.